The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi and welcome to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast. This is a weekly show dedicated to all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. As always, I'm your host, Macca19, and joining me as co-host is Fishing Rick 04. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, very good, Macca. Very good. What about you?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit down. 2 losses on the weekend, so it could be better, I guess.
It's a bit sad, I know. And I just wanted to bring up at this point in time as well that I don't have the chair with me tonight. I'm in a different location. So I thought to keep you honest, seeing I don't have the chair to rock, I brought out my pet pig, Tango. So if you start waffling or telling lies, Tango's coming out. All right?
That's brilliant. That's better than the chair. This should be a weekly event.
No dramas.
Dear God.
Next week I've got a squealing camel, and they'll be coming out.
Fantastic. Oh, I love it. And as you can hear from the laughter in the background, for her first appearance on the podcast for 2014, we are speaking with Portia.
Hi, how's it going?
Very good. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm completely floored now. I'll have to start my brain over again. That's ruined me.
Oh. There's always been a couple of pigs on the podcast, but now there's a real one. So there you go. All right. Well, let's get straight into it and do our love and hate for the week, which is one thing we loved and one thing we hated in and around the Port Adelaide Footy Club this week. Rick, I might start with you, mate. What was your love and hate?
All right. My love this week is a little bit different. I'm going with the fact that I love what we can learn through a loss and defeat. And, we were all getting very excited where we were going and are going as a footy club. And I think the loss this week, not that we needed to have it, highlighted that, even though it smells like roses, there's still some deficiencies in our footy side, and we need to keep working and getting better.
Fantastic. Got to agree with that.
And my hate for the week is Matt Lobey. I think he's very, very unlucky that an umpire can run backwards into a ruck contest while the ruckmen are running forward to tap the ball, and he gets fined for that. That's just outrageous, stupid, and ludicrous by the match review panel.
Also agree with that. What a stupid decision. That was all the umpire's fault. It's not like, the 2 ruckmen are looking in the air at the ball. If you're worried about getting hit, then run the other way. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Why run straight into the players? It's the most stupid thing I've seen, and I don't understand. I mean, the rule of protecting umpires is a good rule, and I understand it. And but when umpires run into stupid spots, they're taking liability for their actions, as far as I'm concerned, and the players shouldn't be accountable for that.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. I guess my main concern would be if that what Matty Lobby did is wrong, then what should he have done instead? I mean, you can hardly sort of go up to the umpire and say, oh, by the way, mate, you're facing the wrong way, or just sort of have a chat to the umpire after the event, because they're not going to change what they did. I really don't know what else he could have done, honestly, apart from just sort of stand back and just watch the contest happen and maybe go get a beer or something. I've no idea.
Well, he was basically pushed into it.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, Portia, what's your love and hate for this week?
Okay, well, look, my love is going to be a bit of a strange one, and I suppose people wouldn't expect it to come from me, but I love that we only lost by that much. I think that game we were had our structure torn apart, our game plan torn apart, and to only lose by that small amount against a side that we have a traditionally terrible reputation against, I'm absolutely astounded that we didn't lose by 10 goals or more. Yep. Really, I think that the guys did, they had not much going for them, but it's a North Melbourne thing, and I'll talk about it later in the podcast, but that's what they do. They distract sides, but the fact is they distracted us, but we didn't let them score all that much either, so, I think that's an upside. My hate for the week, and it's going to sound like scapegoating, but it's really not, because it's just playing on my mind, and it is this thought. John Butcher is the key position forward equivalent of Adam Thompson. Now, I'll explain what I mean by that. I remember when Adam Thompson was playing, everyone, and I was included in this, would say, oh, Adam Thompson, look, he's got such great potential. He's so good at these little things. He's so good in the clearance. But the reality of the situation was he wasn't good at all the other things that actually really matter for a full game player. And I'm beginning to feel that John Butcher's falling in that same boat. He does a lot of little things really brilliantly, but at the end of the day, he's not a full AFL player if those are the only things he's doing. And I just feel like we're at that point where I'd either like to see him dropped or see some sort of magical revelation from above, because I don't think that's coming, and it's what's probably got me started on key position forwards on the forum again this week. I don't know where we go with Butch, and I don't know where we go as a team. I'm not sure what's going on.
No, I think I agree with that as well. He seems to do all the sort of incidentals really well, like his chasing and groundwork's not too bad and all that other stuff, but you just want to see him clunk a few grabs and lead strongly and take a mark and actually kick a goal instead of sort of running underneath the ball and then sort of running onto it, dropping back, and he sort of plays the game like a small forward at the moment, and I'm not sure it's all that great, but look, hopefully he can improve. Yeah,
well, I mean, Josh Fraser was reputed to have played the game like a small forward, but he could still mark and kick, so I'm still not sure about that.
Yeah, there's not enough influence there, that's for sure. And someone brought up today that he's only played 23 games, and that's fair enough. But even for 23 games, for his draft pick and the skill set that he was supposed to have, he should still be able to put himself in the right positions to get the ball. He might not be able to execute properly, because of his strength or whatever, but, he should still be able to be in the right spot more often than what he is, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think he was ever really noted for his skills as a junior. I think he was just a huge ball of potential and enthusiasm. I think that's most of why we went for him. He has really great potential, but he's still got to put it all together, and I suppose that's where development comes in. So this is where we find out whether our development guys are any good, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, my love for this week is Ollie Wine's start to the year.
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely no second-year blues here. He looks to have gone up another level with the increased time on ground that he's had. There's no doubting that he's a star in the making. I don't think he's going to be someone that's going to stagnate early in his career and do a sort of a Brock McLean and sort of taper away after a few years. I think he's going to be an absolute star. Not only is he an inside master, but he's also impacting the scoreboard now on a weekly basis, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, massive 7 tackles on the weekend to go with his possession. So, his defensive aspect was fantastic once again.
That's it.
It's just a dream that we've got him, really. He's the first time in AFL, anyway, that I feel like we've picked up a midfielder that's sort of the equivalent of Warren Treadray to some extent. Yep. He's got a lot to learn. He's still got a lot of development to do, but what you see everything now so far, it's all good, and the deficiencies seem kind of small and workable. He's just going to be a complete player, I think. It's be fantastic.
Are we lucky that Viney was in the draft that year?
Well, yeah, that's true. And that Toompas went to Melbourne. I feel sorry for that guy, but he's sort of like the sacrificial lamb for us, I guess. Took the hit so Port could succeed.
Definitely.
Well, good on him. Team player.
And my hate is our midfield setups in the last quarter. They were just wrong. Just wrong. We just allowed too much easy run over the back, too many easy entries into their forward 50. I know we were tired, but it just wasn't good enough. And in the end, that really sort of cost us the game, I thought.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the midfield setups weren't just a problem in the last quarter, though. I think they're really a problem all game. And I guess a large part of that is that it's something I think we've commented on in the past, but we don't really have any set plays in midfield at all. We go back to when we had Leidenberg on, and you knew what was pretty much going to happen every second contest. But these days, I mean, I've got no idea how we intend to extract the ball as a pattern. Can you identify one? I think we just go for it and see what we can do. But I think that's the issue we have. We don't have any real system.
We got the power to win, power to roll. Come on, for Adelaide aggression. We are the power from Port.
Well, look, let's go on to our review now. Of course, we played North Melbourne at Etihad Stadium yesterday. North Melbourne won by 7 points. They won 14 goals 13 to 13 goals 12. Our multiple goal kickers were Schultz with 3, and also Hamish Hartlett and Angus Monfries with 2 each. I guess the question is, where did it go wrong?
Well, I think
Where'd
where
it
it
go
went
wrong?
wrong. I think where it went wrong is that we were playing North Melbourne, and that's always a problem. At the start of the year, one of the comments I made was that we had a game plan that apparently was being executed by some of our least skilled players, and that's always great. But I think what we really get from North Melbourne every time we play them is that we get to see what happens when a side dedicates pretty much everything to destroying how you do what you do. And I think that's why everyone hates North Melbourne, because they do that to every side. I think really that's what we saw, and I think that getting them this early in the season is actually a really good learning experience for us, because now we've seen what happens, now we've seen what our weaknesses are, and every player on that field knows exactly what they are. So when Ken Hinkley says, this is what we've got to work on, fellas, he'll have a little bit more oomph behind him, because they'll know that what they were doing before, it was okay in parts, but that they need to commit more. So, look, I hate to say use the Crows as an example, but it's probably a lesser version of what happened to them in 1997, in that they were thinking they were pretty awesome, and then Port Adelaide smashed them on their home ground, and this is not quite the same thing. But I think that we have been feeling pretty good about how we've been playing and how we're gelling as a team, and certainly the media loves us now, which is certainly an unusual situation for the national media for us, but it's probably a bit of a reality check that, all that stuff will come, but we still need to work as a team and really pull together and, I suppose, listen to what the coaches are saying. So, I think that's what happened there. North Melbourne were North Melbourne, and we weren't ready, but we will learn a lot from it.
Definitely a good wake-up call, I think, and certainly the calls that were a premiership threat from certain people in the media, and you even heard them in the telecast yesterday. They are so premature, it's not funny.
Oh, yeah.
No, we're not. Look, we're not far away. I mean, we've still got our deficiencies, but our structure's there. But there was a lot of things that just didn't go right for us yesterday, and I think we really got out-coached as well. I think Walsh and Hinkley probably had a bad day in the box, as you brought up about the structural deficiencies. They smashed us in the contest, and I'm sure you're going to have some figures for us very shortly, Macca, that you'll love throwing out. But I mean, in the preview, what was my warning? We can't allow North Melbourne to have their transitional play and just run openly into the forward line. And in the first half, I thought our defensive zones were relatively stable, and we were able to hold off a lot of their run. But as we tied a little bit in the second half, we really got exposed, and we just sort of were overconfident and played Russian roulette football with them, didn't we? Trying to back our mids over theirs, and we just didn't worry about trying to stop them at all.
Can I just jump on you there, Rick? You just said that we've got the structures, but that we have structural deficiencies, which sort of contradicts itself. I'm not sure that we are premiership quality with the structures we have in place, because we've got some pretty huge weaknesses that are going to be exploited and just were. So, I don't know.
Right.
Is that the Rick's wrong duck?
That's the one. Portia's wrong. Rick's never wrong. Ask my family. Rick's never wrong.
Hear that again?
No, what I'm trying to say is our game plan, I believe, is good enough to win a final or a grand final, but we've still got a few holes in our structure, e.g. players, that make us deficient to probably get there just at this point in time. But our game plan's there. It's just execution. And as we saw yesterday, our execution was defunct and got exposed and fell apart.
Okay.
Look, I think we just got sort of out-bustled on the ball, certainly in the contested possession situations. I said before the game that whoever wins the contested possessions in this particular match will win the game. North Melbourne won 143 to 135. They killed us in the clearances by 15. And they also had 12 more tackles. So they really sort of did all the tough stuff. And we couldn't really go with them, especially in the second half in that area.
I think that they did the tough stuff, but watching the game, not looking at the stats so much, what I really noticed was different is that they so much more often seemed to link up to players that knew where they were going, and we really struggled with that all day. Yeah. We were rushing the ball every time, looking, oh gee, where's someone? I can't see where they would be, and then just having a crack wherever we could find it, whereas they were lining up. They were basically set plays for North Melbourne, and I don't think we had too many of those on our part. Very few.
No. Do you think we went in with a little bit of a poor attitude with this one? Because it
we didn't
seemed like the players sort of were coasting for large periods of the match.
I didn't see the defensive element in our game plan yesterday. I didn't think we were chasing defensively and trying to pressure the ball carrier as much as what we did last year and early this year as well. We seemed to be a bit off, and a few of the players seemed to be running sort of like they were running in sand. So I posted on the forum yesterday, I wonder if the showdown, the heat of the showdown, temperature-wise, actually did take its toll on both the Adelaide sides, because it was a hot day, but we just seemed to be a little bit off 5-10% with our running ability compared to what we've got used to.
I mean, the defensive efforts that we've seen that have been really good, they've mostly been from the defence and not so much from the midfield, I think. I think that's probably where we're really sticking out, and I think it's why guys like Wines have really stood out, because they do have a bit of that defensive effort. But I think there's a whole bunch of guys in our midfield that you still sort of think defensively. I can't recall the last time I saw Boak or Hartlett lay a really convincing tackle. And nothing against them, maybe that's not their role, but I just don't think we have those guys that are, going to present every week in the midfield and do that. I think that's probably where we do lack, and that could be a recruitment thing we go for at the end of the year. I'm not sure, but
is that where Andrew Moore is important for us?
I think Andrew Moore. Yeah. Andrew Moore, and people talk about getting someone like Levi Greenwood, and just because he's a Magpie, but in this case, I think it actually would be a good fit in some respects. And as Impey, he's been fantastic. Maybe he can become a defensive midfielder of some sort. We can't rely on Corns and Cassisi to have that presence that they used to have, I guess, and I think that's what that also taught us on the weekend.
And I have to agree with you too, Portia. I think structurally North Melbourne in this game did see, especially around the ball and in the midfield stoppages, they seemed to be more conditioned to what they were going to do compared to what we were going to do. And there was obvious plays where they had a numerical advantage on the boundary line. We didn't go near them. The tap was going to that numerical advantage, and then they were clearing and running the ball away. And again, going back to that same point, we just did nothing about it, and we just let them do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that just commenting on North Melbourne again, you could do a bit of a simile, I suppose, in that North Melbourne are skirmishers, and that's what they're good at. But if you want them to, I suppose, win finals, win premierships, I just don't think they have the build for it, because I think they're really good at small battles, but I don't know that they've got the team and the game plan for a big picture thing. So, in a lot of ways, people are going to say North Melbourne might make top four, and hey, they might, but they probably won't. I think it's hard to play like that every week, and I think that, but I think they'll always put in a good contest around the ball, and I think that we should have expected that in a lot of ways. That's what North Melbourne do. So I don't know if there's something we could have done different at selections. I don't know if there's something we could have done different in preparation, but on the day, obviously, we're just exposed, and I'm not sure we necessarily have the personnel that we need that are fit at the moment.
Are we being a bit... Yeah, keep going.
You go, mate. You go.
I was just going to say, are we being a little bit critical? Because I thought Mumfreys going off was a real game changer for us.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what I wanted to say. Was I want to clarify what I mean by our attitude, and that's not that I didn't think we put in 100%. I thought we left absolutely everything on the park yesterday, and were just beaten by a better and probably fitter team on the day.
Yep.
I thought we absolutely gave everything we got. I just think we were a little bit leery at times, especially in the first half when we sort of break away to a bit of a lead. We just started trying to sort of be a bit too cute with the ball, and I think that really sort of worked against us at crucial times of the game.
I think we were just lost, We saw that lots of times under Primus where the players, you'd know they were trying their absolute guts out, but they were getting nowhere because they didn't have any system, they didn't have any reliable structures, they didn't have any set plays that were coming off. And that's exactly what we saw yesterday. I like Hinkley, he's a good guy and he speaks a good speech, but we've got to get those set players, and I was hoping Phil Walsh might have had a few contributions in that area. I really hope that there's something that's coming on, and just maybe it didn't work on the weekend. I don't know.
And definitely, I think Monfrey's going off certainly certainly hurt us, especially with Wingard going off injured sort of 5 minutes after that as well.
Yeah.
It really sort of took a big sort of chunk of our sort of forward run out, and both of those guys can chop out in the midfield as well. It was definitely a turning point in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and Shields then injuring his foot as well, so there was three forwards that was sort of gone or sort of disabled to a degree, and then that required Brad Ebert to go more to a half forward role over his full-time midfield role, which I think we lost his gut running ability from there too.
Yeah.
Something I want to talk about is quality of clearances, because it seems that in the 3 games that we've had so far, and certainly in the pre-season as well, the opposition have been able to take away some really exciting, exhilarating clearances from the stoppages, in that they run away with the ball and get it in deep into the forward line. And I don't think we've done that once this year. It just seems that whenever we get a clearance, we want to handball it sort of backwards and sort of have 3 or 4 handballs, and then sort of it seems like the coaching staff have tried to get them to make a better decision with the ball, so they can think about it clearer in space and then sort of deliver it forward. But sometimes you just want that really deep forward clearance.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's not a lot of times that you see genuinely young players involved in that sort of play, and I guess that's one of the things we have to remember, When we talk about Port Adelaide at their best with set players, it was because they were senior players that were at least, 23, 24, being led by senior players even older that knew a few things. So I think you're right. I think we are trying to learn that, but I think that also maybe there's confusion about who should be going for it and who should be receiving it. In other teams, your defensive midfielders are certainly among the extractors, and I'm not so sure that we are so good at that. Look, I'm not having a go at Kasisi and Corns here, but I mean, they were really great back in the day, but I'm just not sure. Are they past it? Is that the question we have to ask at this point? They're certainly fit enough, and that's great, but we really need people in there just barreling out the ball in exactly the right spot, and I just don't know that they're going to lead the way with that. And maybe we need to move forward and try some different things.
I think it's getting close. I think Kane's been pretty serviceable this year, and so's Dom. But I guess we do need to move forward at some stage, and I'd probably assume that this would probably be Dom's last year, and everyone's forgetting. Everyone seems to be bringing up that we've got the 3rd youngest list in the league, and what's going to happen when you've got the 3rd youngest list in the league? You're going to have moments of inconsistency. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. And I thought, we've been driven by our young players last year and so far this year. Our young players have been fantastic. And I thought a lot of our young players, Ollie Wines exempt, were probably a little bit off yesterday. They seemed, I don't know if they were a bit overawed or something. They didn't really pick up the tempo of the game, and that was probably maybe the difference between us winning and losing yesterday. And but again, that's going to happen with your young players.
I think we're underrating Dom's game yesterday a little bit, to be honest. I thought he was really good, and we'll talk about that he's not really getting the ball out, but he was our 2nd highest clearance winner yesterday.
Yeah, but there's a difference between winning the clearance and getting the ball to somewhere useful, though. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make there. Is I think he was really good at getting the ball, and I think he was good at getting it out a bit. But as far as actually setting something up, I just don't think he's doing that anymore. And
it comes a time where you do need to start looking forward, really, and you just got to move on.
Well, I mean, if not this year, we've certainly got a situation where potentially over the off-season we could have Impey and Jonas come in for those 2 roles and then just develop more people in the backlines, That could be a really good option if they can get their fitness up. So,
well, the question needs to be that if Andrew Moore was fit, would Kasisi be playing?
Probably not.
You'd hope not, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to Kasisi. We really need Andrew Moore pushing him out of the side. I thought we held their tall forwards pretty well yesterday. I think that was a positive. For all their run and carry through the centre, we were able to, I thought, negate all 3 of their forwards. And I mean, we were a bit lucky that Curry couldn't take a mark to save his life.
That's one of the things that was really kind of annoying me following the forum during the game, is hearing people complaining about the defence, and I don't think it was the defence that let us down on this occasion at all. When key forwards are marking on the lead and there's no one to cut them off, that's generally not a problem for the fullback. That's generally down to a failure in the half-back line and therefore the midfield as well. I think that our midfield was not great going forward or back. I think that's obviously where we lost it. But as far as stopping the tall forwards, I think we did a really great job. I was really happy with that.
We
It's
did a
just that we couldn't beat
fantastic
the momentum. We just couldn't beat the momentum that was coming out of midfield all the time.
Yeah, I mean they kicked one goal between them.
Yeah.
Black, Curry and Petrie. You can't ask for better than that, really.
I don't know. Petrie's
No,
been a real
Petrie
pain in the
had
past.
absolutely, yeah, exactly. Well, he's killed us a lot of times. As I said in the preview, you know, he's kicked 12 goals in the last 3 games against Port Adelaide, and we kept him to one kick or something like that. I mean, we just killed him. And Curry as well had no influence. Black kicked a goal and was all right, I guess, but it certainly wasn't their key forwards that won them the game.
No.
No. And, I mean, that was with Jonas and Homsch being fractionally off yesterday as well. So,
Fractionally.
Oh,
I'm trying to be nice.
Well, their lack of awareness really cost us. I don't know what Jonas was doing yesterday. It just seemed like he just wanted to decapitate Lindsay Thomas about 8 times.
I mean, you can't blame him for that, though.
I can't blame him, but it did cost us at fairly crucial times throughout the game.
Yeah, I think
I
every
probably
backman's going to have a
would have
day
done
like
the
that,
same
though.
Yeah.
And but one
He's
person,
been great this year, but yeah, that was probably the worst game I've seen him play at AFL level.
yeah, I'd agree with that. One person I was really happy with was Tango. For the number of times he was on that last line of defence, just when the ball was going to bounce through or do something really irritating like that, and be one of those goals that would just have me break something. It was really good to see Tango getting that real defensive nous, and he's coming along very nicely, I think.
He's a star.
Yeah.
Absolute star.
I was excited when we recruited him. I thought he was going to be great, even with his suspect knee, and he's coming on fantastically well. We're very lucky, and he seems to be a great clubman as well. So hopefully he's with us for the long haul.
Yeah, all Australian this year, I hope.
That would be great.
Well, he'd definitely
would
be
be
around
great.
roundabouts at this early stage, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well,
He
I mean,
hasn't
he's
been
legit.
beaten yet, and he really controls the play across halfback.
Yeah,
I don't
that
think
probably,
we should.
that probably
Oh, I
won't
was
help
just-
him. But that probably won't help him because of the fact that he's a natural defender, and I suppose that mostly they like these KPPs that are usually sort of midfielders, and I don't think you could really say Trengo was one of those. He's just a genuine defender at this point.
Yeah,
But I thought Alec Paddy was fantastic yesterday as
he
well.
was.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
They've
Yeah, so
really been faultless all year so far. Our key defenders.
Mm.
That group of 4, you know, they've barely been beaten at all.
Yep.
Do you think we missed a trick? You know, did Cunnington sort of expose us a little bit? Should we have done something with him yesterday? I found him very noticeable as a player.
Oh, yeah. I think that any time you're getting beaten like that, there's always going to be someone that really stands up. Take, for example, Ben Jacobs in that last couple of minutes. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's just a
Who?
symptom. I don't think he was... Yeah.
You're not allowed to use that name.
I think Cunnington was more a symptom than a cause. I think it's just he happened to be the one that was on the good end of it all. I'm not sure that he was exceptionally good compared to anyone else in that north side.
I just
think
seem to.
he'd get the 2 Brownlow votes, I reckon, behind Del Santo.
Yeah, broadbent
He was pretty strong. But were you guys happy with Matty Broadbent and Robbie Gray?
No, not Broadbent. Broadbent, I think he can do some things really well, but I think there's whole periods of games where I just don't see him do anything. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard one. I haven't made a call on Matty yet, but I just sort of wonder. And in these games, when you can see the midfield's getting smashed, you sort of have to look at everyone there and go, well, okay, I can see what these guys are doing, but I just wasn't really sure what Broadbent was doing most of the game. I can't say he really impacted all that heavily, from my opinion.
Well, I was just trying to say that, I mean, we didn't lose because Jasper obviously started as a sub, but he's a lot more important to our defensive running than what people give credit for. And, I thought we were a little bit exposed there.
I don't think our defensive running was a problem yesterday. I really liked Pittard's game as the sub. I thought he did all right. I just think he was put in the wrong positions. Really, I thought he should have been up on a wing and trying to create the play a bit more. But he was sort of stuck a little bit sort of deeper than I would have hoped for.
Yeah. Look, Pittard, I think that he's another one of these guys that you sort of hope he'll get experience and get better, and I guess that might happen. And I guess that wherever you play him, you hope he's going to do something. But I saw him on the bench and a couple of times, and this is going to be a really unfair judgment, so don't take it too seriously. But I saw him on the bench a couple of times, and I thought, oh, gee, I would like it if he was paying a lot more attention to the game than that, because I'm just... With Pittard particularly, you think he's an intellectual player, and by that I mean he thinks about the game and he tries to work out what's going on. So if he doesn't know exactly what's going on, if he doesn't read the play while it's happening, even if he's not involved, I think he puts himself at a huge disadvantage. And I was a little bit worried, I don't know, I might be completely off on the wrong track here, but I think that's something he really needs to be focused on. And I kind of think he came into a pretty hot game and was on the back foot because of that more than anything.
Did you think he was drifting on the bench?
Look, why wouldn't you? You know, I think that's a danger for every sub, but I think that some guys come on and they just instinctively adjust to what's going on, and I don't think Pittard's one of those guys. I think he has to think his way through it. So I would say, particularly for him, I would say that he's probably someone that really needs to focus on what's going on and work out what he's going to do to make a difference when he comes on.
Let's talk a little bit about Matthew White, because obviously he tagged Harvey pretty heavily yesterday. In the end, Harvey was arguably the match winner in the last quarter. How did we see Whitey's game? I thought he was really, really good in the first half, but kind of got away from him a little bit in the second half.
When you're a good defender for 3 quarters and you get smashed when it counts, so it's always hard to say that someone's done a good job, and I think that's the case in Matty White's case for this game. He did some really good things, but, you know, letting slip at the wrong times, I don't know, that for a defender that you just have to be on all game.
Yeah. We spoke about Russian roulette a little bit earlier, and I thought Whitey tried to do that in the last quarter. You could tell he was sort of sneaking away about 5 to 10 metres from Harvey in the hope that we would win the ball, and then Whitey would be able to receive the ball and run on. And he did that a couple of times, but when we didn't win the ball, Harvey generally got it, and he was very, very damaging in that last quarter.
Well, he always is, isn't he?
I think he's going to stay on their list for bloody 15 years, and they'll just wheel him out against us every time, because they know he's going to win them the game.
I'm worried he'll become their coach.
Hey, you know, the other thing I brought up last week, and again, we only had 99 interchanges out of a possible 120. So it seems to be a specific strategy with the fitness staff. I'm curious to know, especially when you compare it to Sydney, and this is where I think it's a bit of a farce of a rule. Sydney had 126 interchanges on Saturday, and all they get's a fine. I mean, really, surely there has to be something going on there. But I mean, focusing on Port, I'm curious why we're not pushing closer to the limit of our interchange caps.
Especially yesterday when we were visibly sort of running on the spot in the last quarter. I thought we would have been right on the limit.
To be fair, who would we have brought in? You know, if we're doing all these interchanges, I just don't know that we really would. If everyone's buggered, then I don't think there's a lot of bonus in rotating them more rapidly. If they're just gut running at that point, there's just no point, really. I would have thought. I don't know. I'm not a fitness expert.
Who do we need to get on for the fitness? We need
Power Freak, wasn't it? Yeah.
We'll have to get Power Freak on to ask him about the theory, maybe while we're down on the interchange, because 20 is a big differential to not be taking advantage of.
Well, I think that with interchanges, it got to a certain bit of a point where it's a bit like chicken, which is, you know, every time someone else does an interchange, well, you're going to do one too. So if one of you is just not all that interested in doing it, the other side, maybe they don't bother. I don't know.
All right, well, let's talk about our best players. Portia, who was your top 5?
Oh, God, you caught me there. I'm not going to do them because my top 5 are going to be for individual bits of play, and they probably don't reflect a performance over a whole match. But I think that Monfries was as good as anyone until he got injured.
Yep.
I think I'm going to say Tango because he did those things that I really like, which is that last line defence, knowing when to go back and just be that last line of defence, but also just consistently going well throughout the game. Schultz, I don't know what he's made of. He must to be... I don't think he's human because he gets injured and he comes back every time. And I think that for that state, I think he put in a pretty good performance. Impey, fantastic endeavour. I know people aren't going to like hearing this, but I really remember Nathan Cracker's first 10 games, and I feel like he's playing with that style of intensity. Unfortunately, Nathan Cracker then wore out, and I don't think he was ever the same again. But hopefully Impey's got a bit more stamina, a bit more determination than Nathan did.
Yeah.
And I guess one more. Oh gosh. Yeah, no, I can't think of one. Pass.
That's all right. That's okay. Rick?
Eight 1%ers too, Portia to Jackson Tango, and 6 to Ali Paddy. So they both were doing the team things. Well, Portia's not going to like me. I had Matty Broadbent up there, number 1. Ollie Wines, number 2. I'd put the Trengove and Alipati 3 and 4. I thought they had very serviceable games. And look, I don't know if Robbie was slipping or ducking his head, but I think he's got to stop the head flick, I think, and just concentrate on the footy a little bit. But I think Robbie Gray's start to the season has been fantastic, and he's been giving us a lot of midfield assistance and clearances, and 7 clearances yesterday again.
Yep. I had Robbie as my best on ground. I thought he had a wonderful inside game and dominated the clearances and really tried to get us going, especially in the last quarter when everyone else was tiring. He sort of stood tall and tried to get the ball forward for us. I'm the same with you, Rick. I thought Broady was fantastic, a real great sort of 4-quarter effort. He found plenty of space across half-back and through that centre line. And that massive goal he kicked was superhuman. It was bloody huge. Obviously, Bobby just absolutely destroyed Petrie. That was a fantastic effort. Monfries was probably my best on ground up until he went off. It was definitely his best game of the year so far, and really provided plenty of spark up forward. And Ollie Wines, just another very strong 4-quarter effort in the midfield for Ollie.
Cheer, cheer the black and the white. Honour the Magpies day and by night. Live that loyal.
All right, the other game that we're going to talk about is the Port Adelaide versus Norwood match, which was round 1 for the SANFL. It was played on Thursday night. It was on when we were doing the preview podcast. Pretty disappointing loss in the end. It was a 19-point loss to Norwood. We lost 8 goals 9 to 11 goals 10. Mitch Harvey, on his debut, was the only multiple goal scorer. Wasn't really what I expected, guys.
Why would it not be what you expect? Norwood have won a premiership, and we've got a whole bunch of guys that used to play for different clubs all suddenly being a team. You have to sort of expect that, wouldn't you?
They only had 8 premiership players out there.
So?
Oh, I don't know. I expected a bit more. It wasn't the fact that Norwood won. It was more lack of effort through periods of the first half, which was really disappointing. It looked like because of our fantastic SANFL pre-season form, we just expected to go out there and win the game, and it just didn't happen that way.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I'm with Portia on that one. It's got to be you think of Tom Logan and Semi Cahoon and the rest of the boys that have been based at specific clubs for a while, and they're probably they're second clubs, and now they're playing for Port Magpies. It's going to take a little bit of time and gel. I mean, for Sam playing against Centrals the other week, it would have been probably pretty bizarre. So and Paul Stewart, there's the other one I was thinking of. So it is going to take a bit of time, and I agree with Portia. Norwood's obviously an experienced outfit, and we're still learning and getting the ropes together. But I guess from my perspective, I'm really hoping to see some players at SANFL level really string up strong performances week in, week out, and be pushing for selection. That's the important part for us here, and unfortunately we don't seem to be getting too many consistent performances there.
Yeah, and there's one other thing I'd also contribute to what's going to make it a bit of a difficult factor is that we're sort of glossing over it because we're saying, Magpies in the SANFL, but there's still a split, and that's still got to be healed. You've still got, Magpies only players, and you've got power players suddenly in the same side when, last year it got actually kind of nasty between them, I think, at one point. Was it Steve Summerton saying nasty things about the idea of Port being the reserve side and history of the Magpies and all that sort of thing? So there's still a lot of wounds that got to be healed over, even though we can all sort of, play happy families and say, yes, isn't it good to have the prison bars for the reserves, which is true. It is nice, but there's still a lot of work that's got to go on there, just culturally, reintegrating the Ethelton team, I guess.
Yeah, I still think we went out there with a bit of a disappointing attitude. It certainly wasn't the quantity of ball that we got. I mean, we won the disposals, we won the tackles, we won the hit-outs, we won the clearances. But it was just the quality of ball. We just turned it over far too easily. We couldn't get it forward. We really lacked outside run. We were sort of lacking targets up forward, which is a bit of a concern, and it's going to be a concern all year. Our midfield was alright, it was pretty good, but our defence made a number of pretty poor blunders throughout the game.
So what's happened to Kane Mitchell? You know, he was one that I thought would really be stepping up and pulling big numbers with his fitness base at SANFL level.
I think he reckoned he might have earned a spot last year, and he might not be too happy about the fact that he's still on the rookie list.
I'm not sure. He just played a very inside game on the weekend. He really lacked that outside run. He was one that I was sort of talking about in that regard. But his inside work was very good. I'll give him that on the weekend.
Aaron Young posted some good numbers. I saw some of the board members were a bit critical of his disposal, but I didn't really see too much of the game. But numbers alone, 28 disposals, 13 clearances. He must have really dominated around the contest.
He was clearly best on ground for us. His disposal probably let him down on 3 or 4 occasions, but when you're getting that many kicks and you're winning the bowl in the clinches like that, I'm not sure you can be overly critical, because really no one else was really doing that sort of thing for the club on Thursday night. Is it enough to get him a game next week at AFL level?
Well, surely he'd be replacing Monfries. He'd have to be a Monty.
Oh, I just hope it's not Cam Hitchcock.
Oh, I would highly doubt it would be Hitchcock.
I don't know. That'd be very.
Emergency last week, wasn't he?
It'd be entertaining for the board, though.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, honestly, if there was a player in the current power side that you would consider replacing with Hitchcock, it probably would be Monfries, because Hitchcock, you know, he's not a crumbing forward. He's just not. He's a straight line runner, and I guess that's sort of what Monfries does as well. So, you know, if you're doing like for like, he actually probably is not the terrible fit. But I don't know.
I'll put it this way: if I said to you, I guarantee you that Hitchcock will play 4 quarters and not get injured, would you be a little bit more enthusiastic?
No, probably not, because the main issue for me is that he has deficiencies in speed compared to the very best. He has deficiencies in height, and he has deficiencies in strength, which means that he can always be exposed by a huge number of AFL players. When he has the ball on his terms, he's extremely good. There's no doubt about that, but he's got to get it. He's got to get it on his terms. And if he'd been playing last week against North Melbourne, I think he would have been just as lost as everyone else, really. Probably more so.
Does Paul Stewart come in for Monfries? He's the other one we've got to talk about.
What's he going to do? Monfries is a pretty big hole for us. I'm just not sure what Paul Stewart would specifically add that we'd want to bring him in at this point.
I guess he's sort of that... he's pretty quick, he takes a grab, he can kick a goal. He's reasonably similar to Monfries in that regard.
Gee, it's a long bow, but okay.
Well, he's probably more like for like than Hitchcock, or Young, for that matter.
Look, at this point I'd almost be tempted, because we're going up against Brisbane, I think we'd almost be tempted to blood someone, wouldn't we? Like someone like a Ben Newton, I don't know. Get a bit of that enthusiasm into the side, rather than sort of hope that a guy that's been on the list for, 6-7 years is going to turn around. I don't know.
Will they play Newton after his concussion, though? They might give him a game back at the SANFL level first.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows how bad it is, though.
Would we bring back Andrew Moore pretty quickly?
If he's ready, he would. But if he's still a bit off, I mean, he plays a physical game, so you'd want to be pretty careful.
I'd probably prefer Moore to play one game at SANFL level than bring him in, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a fair call too. But I guess when you look at the list of performers at SANFL level, then really it's Aaron Young, Tom Cleary probably deserves another opportunity if there's a spot there for him. Is it one of those things where does Butcher keep his place in the side for this week's game?
Oh, I think he pretty much has to, because we don't have options.
Yeah. Look, Mitch Harvey had a pretty good debut, I've got to say. He had 11 touches, 5 marks and 2 goals, which is pretty good effort for your debut SANFL game. But I don't think he's anywhere near AFL level yet.
I was going to say, where's Mission? Because we could ask him, is he fit enough to run out an AFL game?
No.
Well, then there's no point picking him. If he's not fit enough, he'll just get exposed, won't he?
Yeah, well, that was the thing over his head when he was recruited. It wasn't his ability, it was his fitness, which, I think there's a great opportunity for him to turn that around, but that's going to take a couple of years at least, do you think?
Just quickly, before we finish the podcast, what do we expect the crowd to be on Saturday? Last year, you would think, the forecast is for rain. We're playing Brisbane, a low-drawing club, on a Saturday afternoon. You would think, we'd be pushing sort of 20,000. I'm still thinking sort of 26 to 28, which is a big increase on what I would have expected last year, but probably below what a lot of other people are expecting.
Yeah, look, this is always one of my concerns with Adelaide Oval when they put out the design, which is the actual rain cover of the stands. I'm really not convinced it's going to be all that great, and I think people had a really good chance to see it last on the showdown, and I don't know, maybe they will be a little bit hesitant. It's one thing when it's pissing down, you can quickly run out to your car and drive home, but it's another thing when you have to go catch a train and do all sorts of other things to get home and walk across the bridge and God knows what else. So, yeah I don't know, I'm worried.
The eastern stand's going to be lovely with 25 kilometre/hour southwesterly winds spraying three-quarters of that stand on a 22-degree day. It should be very pleasurable, I'm sure, for us punters. Well, I'm not sitting there, so that's right. Me and
you're
Macca's,
fine then.
me and Macca's will be behind the goal this week.
Okay. There is one thing I'd like to say about this game, which is a couple of things. The first one is that if we were going to go 3-1 at the end of this year, then I'm kind of glad that North Melbourne is the one we lost, because I think that beating Carlton was important as the first game, winning the showdown obviously important, and quite honestly, it's the anniversary of Brisbane Lions, and I want us to beat the absolute living snot out of them so that they remember, and all of those guys that whinge like Voss and Scott and Scott and Scott and Scott and Scott and Scott, they all just have these little twinges where they realise, Port Adelaide is back and we are pummelling them again. So I really want us to win this week enormously. It's hugely important to me. I don't know why, but I'm really hoping we go out there and absolutely annihilate them.
That'd be great. I would love that. It'd be fantastic.
Well, I picked 43, but now that the weather's declined on us, I'm going to go 33.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm optimistic.
I'm going to go 72.
What, 1,000 people? We can't even fit that many in there, can we?
I thought we were doing margins, sorry.
No, I'm talking crowd. I never actually answered.
Crowd would be awful, I would have thought. Saturday afternoon.
Can't be that bad. Well, we had about 44,000, 43,000 at the showdown. So, if we beat North Melbourne, I would have been hoping we would have been pushing 40. So
on a Saturday afternoon against Brisbane in the wet.
Yeah.
What else is there to do on a Saturday?
Oh, I don't know. I think people are sort of over-exaggerating the amount of maybe season ticket holders we got. I don't know. I would be incredibly pleasantly surprised if we get 40,000 there on Saturday.
I'd be astounded.
If we get that, then Adelaide Oval is the absolute biggest saviour any sporting club in the world has ever had. Because I'm not even expecting 30.
You can't base it just on our season ticket holders, because part of Adelaide Oval was that we were going to bring in a lot of neutrals to the ground.
Yeah, but who's going to go in the wet against Brisbane on a Saturday afternoon? The Saturday afternoon is the key. If this was a Saturday night game, I would say probably 35 or 36. But because it's a Saturday afternoon, I'm still thinking sort of 26, 28.
There's another factor.
But really, we're who knows? Who really knows? There's nothing to really base it on yet.
I think there's another factor. I think there's another factor that didn't really apply at Football Park, which is that okay, let's say that the Adelaide Oval thing is that on an afternoon game, you go in early, you have a bit of lunch, and then you walk down to the ground. Well, I don't know about you, but if I've just had a nice lunch and maybe a beer or something like that, and I think, I could walk out through that rain and go to the footy, or I could just stay here and watch it on TV, I'm going to be pretty inclined to stay here and watch it on TV, even if I've got a ticket for the game. I don't know. I think that's going to be a new factor when it's raining. We used to have the stay away factor, where if it was raining 2 hours before the game, people wouldn't show up. But now I think that we've got to deal with that right up to the bounce, quite honestly. It's a different thing.
This isn't 2011 and 2012. The boys are playing very attractive football most of the time now, and you'd believe that most people would would still go down and want to watch that live, especially based in the city compared to Footy Park. So I'd be a little bit optimistic. I think you guys might.
Last
I'd like
year
to
we
believe
were,
that, Rick.
We were, 5-1 when we came up against Richmond on a Saturday afternoon at Footy Park in the wet, and we got something like 20,500. So you just don't know. And yes, our season tickets are significantly higher. Yes, there's probably going to be more neutrals that'll be attracted, but you just don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, if it was a perfect day and we won against North Melbourne, I reckon we might have had a smoky. I think a lot of neutrals might have come down to the ground. I think the rain element, you're right, might affect the crowd attendance. But I mean, so you guys would be happy then if we got 33,000 at the game?
I wouldn't be ecstatic, but yeah, that'd be pretty good. Yeah.
I think if we got 28, 30, in a way, it's a little bit deflating. That's our follow-up figure after having maximum capacity 50,000 sell-out game, and maybe this is a bit of a poor reflection on the AFL fixturing, like with the psychology here of attendances and just the influence of a game. Maybe this game should have been another high-drawing team in a generous time slot just to keep that momentum of crowds going to the game. Because I can see what will happen if we get 28,000. Come Monday, especially when the Crows lose to St Kilda, what's it going to be about? Oh, Port Adelaide's got no supporters. Where are they? They're all fair weather. They can't even get 40,000 to the game. Well, the only 28,000's coming. What a disgrace. They didn't even need Adelaide Oval, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the issue, yeah. Obviously, I mean, if they're going to crap on about Port no matter what we do, so I wouldn't worry about that. But I think that the idea, if you're looking to attract those neutrals that you're talking about, Rick, then I think that the idea that you say, Adelaide Oval, what was the point of Adelaide Oval? Crowds aren't any better, blah, blah, blah. That's going to hurt a lot more than having a crack at Port Adelaide, because that's water off a duck's back. That doesn't really matter at all. But damaging the Oval at this point, we are tied to that now. We want that Oval to have the best reputation in Australia, and we need to talk it up at every opportunity, because the more we do that, the more people are going to want to come. They want to travel from interstate and go to Adelaide Oval because it looks fantastic and the crowds are always on. We've got a huge commitment to Adelaide Oval as a brand, and that's much more danger than having a crack at Port Adelaide from Crows fans. That's nothing at all.
That's it. Everyone get out there. Bring a friend.
I take it we're near the end here. There was just something I wanted to quickly bring up, and I just wanted to wish the 36ers and good luck in the grand final. I think we've got to go back to 2002, and hopefully they can represent Adelaide well. It's always good to see Adelaide do well in the basketball, and it brings back memory of I was at Game 3 in 1986 at Apollo Stadium, and my old man as a 13-year-old dropped me off at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, you can queue up if you want tickets. So I had to queue up from 4 to bloody 10 o'clock by myself, waiting at the aisle to get tickets. And then he came and enjoyed the spoils of watching the game, though, the bugger. But, that was with Pearce and Ally, McKay, Davis, our Green. It was a fantastic time back then. And, we've always been strong at basketball, so it's good to see we're back there for this season anyway.
Good stuff. All right, well, Portia, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
Great to talk to you again.
Thanks for having me.
Rick, as always, buddy. And Peppa Pig, thanks for coming on.
No dramas. Pleasure as always.
God. Go the power.
Can't Port. Oh no!
Oh, I love it. That's great.
It sounds like Max Bashir.
Who delivers beautifully on the chest of Thurston. Pickett with the overlap. Port